Agyanam timirandasya Gyananjana salakaya Chaksurunmilitam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tvadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namah. Yang Pravarjantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Viraka Tarua Juhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Banedos Tang Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi. Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Chiptasya Kamadi Tarangamadye Kripamai Tvam Sharanam Papadyam Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Tavaivasmi Tavaivasmi Na jivami tam vina iti vigyaya radhe tam nayamam charanantike. First, I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Astotra Sat Shri Srimati, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudev, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Astotra Sat Shri Srimati, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, to our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and to all of his divine associates and all the assembled devotees. Nothing's sure in the material world, but what I've heard from Sripad Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj's disciple yesterday is that today is his appearance day. Just in case that's right, I've been waiting to do this for months, been waiting to hear about what the day was so that I could engage and purify myself in this way. I think I don't have to mention his heroic supernatural feats in serving his Shiksha Gurudev, his all in all, his life and soul, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, for well over 30 years, in terms of caring, not that Gurudev needed health care, but to show the world how he was taken care of by his excellent disciple, and also to show that, as it states in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that the pure devotee is never in any physical difficulty, but in order to increase the love of his disciples, he performs sickness pastimes. So I don't have to mention the amazing fortitude of Sripad Madhava Maharaj in taking care of Srila Gurudev's health through thick, and I've seen through thin, over so many years, in 2004 and so many other years. And by his side, feeding him according to the prescribed diet, and also taking care of his health in terms of whenever devotees were in Srila Gurudev's room for darshan, when Sripad Madhava Maharaj felt that any moment over this time is going to affect Gurudev's health. He would, even back from the early 90s when I started visiting Srila Gurudev, Sripad Madhava Maharaj would have this big bell. Bing! Okay, Gurudev has to take prasadam now. Okay, Gurudev has to rest now, everyone can go. So sometimes we went and sometimes we didn't. But he was insistent and gradually we left. So also, I don't have to mention about how he took Srila Gurudev along with some of Gurudev's other pilots, took Gurudev around the world 15 times at least, and arranged for devotees to get darshans twice a day and meet Gurudev at the door to his bhajan kutir when he would leave class and go back to his room. For me personally, he organized, I would say, several hundred meetings with Gurudev so that I could ask him questions about, while I was editing his books and lectures for the Harikatha mailing lists and for his books. So in Badger, even when Srila Gurudev was performing his sickness pastimes in 2009 and especially 2010, I remember this one godbrother of mine wanted so much to meet with Gurudev, but that day Sripad Madhava Maharaj said no. So I went on behalf of my godbrother and said, why can't he see him? And then he said regretfully, he's not well. Just the fact that he's here and giving lectures is enough. And it certainly was enough, because besides Srila Gurudev's voice and the praying atoms coming from his voice, even if he wouldn't say something, even if he would call on his disciples to speak on a particular topic, we would say the words, but the praying atoms were coming from Srila Gurudev's body into the hearts of all the audience, and from his eyes as well. So, yes, I don't have to mention all the thousands of devotees who were given darshan with Srila Gurudev because of Sripad Madhava Maharaj's very kind arrangements. And I don't have to mention about how he was a major assistant with Srila Gurudev's Hindi publications in all ways and forms, from setting up his seat and his pen and some kind of a stick thing for Gurudev to lean his arm on, to connecting with other devotees, to editing, proofreading, sending his manuscripts to others. And I don't have to mention about how he helped the English language devotees in answering their questions when they were doing translations from Srila Gurudev's Hindi to English. So what I'm going to talk about is how he personally helped me. And that is, I met Sripad Madhava Maharaj the same year, obviously, that I met Srila Gurudev, which is 1992. And even from that time, when I couldn't understand something that Gurudev said in the class, I needed more clarification, he was always there answering questions. And then when we started publications, which was 1997, all around the world, wherever I had the fortunate opportunity to be at, say, 90% of Srila Gurudev's world tour places, wherever Sripad Madhava Maharaj happened to be, especially in the kitchen, when he was in the middle of cooking, he would answer my questions. And even when I asked a question that wasn't for publication or clarification for a Harikatha mail-out, and I would just ask him something for myself. Like once I asked him, can you please tell me what Srila Gurudev is doing now while he was in the middle of cooking? He said, well, when Gurudev is helping in his Manjari form, helping Srimati Radhika cook in the morning, Gurudev in that Manjari form would say to Radharani, oh, this is so interesting, because when you were feeling intense separation from Krishna, even when we laid you down on cooling lotus petals and put cooling camphor on your body, it would immediately turn into hot dust. But now I see, because Gurudev would be helping in the kitchen with, that is Raman Manjari, would be helping in the kitchen with cut up and lighting the fire and helping with the spicing, bringing the vegetables and so on. So in that form she would say to Srimati Radhika, so isn't it interesting that now you're standing in front of 1,000 fires and you're so cool, no need to even fan you, because you're so happy to be serving Krishna. So there were all kinds of questions that I would ask. I would ask, he arranged that I could ask hundreds and hundreds to Srila Gurudev, and also he himself answered, maybe it was 1,000 questions, since I knew him in 1992, particularly when we started the world touring with Srila Gurudev. And again, you know that Sripad Madhava Maharaj was always in the kitchen. Every day he was in the kitchen. And so often I would come and ask him questions about the Harikatha. Like, I remember one question I asked him that Gurudev said, I believe it was in Australia, but I asked in Badger because we went from one country to another. And by the time we got around to editing it, we were in another country. So I said, now Gurudev sounds pretty puffed up here, doesn't he? Because Gurudev said, no one can love Prabhupada like me. Therefore, he is Bhaktivedanta, and I am also Bhaktivedanta. No one can love him like I do. I said to Sripad Madhava Maharaj, isn't that like proud or puffed up? He said, no, that's love. Like a child out of love will say about his father, I love my father better than anyone could ever love him. So he so much entered into the mood of Srila Gurudev and helped me so much in that way. So there was another interesting thing that would go on sometimes, because Srila Gurudev was either obviously in trance, or he was able to function well in the world but still be in full trance, still be absorbed in Radha and Krishna's pastimes and seeing himself there. So sometimes he was in such trance that his sentences didn't make sense. It was just like words that he would give in a lecture. Not often, but sometimes. And sometimes he would combine like 3 pastimes into one pastime, being in that trance. So when I would ask Sripad Madhava Maharaj about that, he said, and this became a famous saying that the two of us understood, that's a trance sentence. That's his trance. Meaning, don't expect clarity in it. In fact, one time when Gurudev was giving a lecture about Lord Shiva, he combined 3 pastimes of Lord Shiva and Krishna. And in the when we sent out that Hari Katha in 1997, it was a lecture in Holland, I wasn't thinking. I just said, okay, he said it, so that's what it is. But then in 2000, I think 4, when we were making the Shiva Tattva book, then when I saw that same lecture transcribed already now, I said, that doesn't make any sense. And then I went to the Bhagavatam and saw that there were actually 3 different pastimes that I had read before in the Bhagavatam. So we asked Gurudev about it, and he said, yes, follow the Bhagavatam version. Once after I finished the Sevakunj painting, which began by Srila Gurudev saying to me, can you paint my heart? When it was finished, Sripad Madhava Maharaj was so happy with me that I did it, that it pleased Gurudev, that he sang for me his, wasn't exactly a song, it was like an astakam. It was a song. His astakam called Raman Manjari Astakam. Later, when he finally published it, I believe it was in his 2nd volume of his biography of Gurudev. There was some alterations of the wording, but basically the same. So Maharaj sang that astakam for me, and I tape recorded it. In those days it was cassette tape recorder. And I went home. I was staying at the Krishna Balaram Mandir at that time in Vrindavan, in ISKCON's Krishna Balaram Mandir, and I copied it down. So I copied it down on Indian paper, because that's what I had, lined, the typical Indian lined paper. So I don't know if you know about Indian paper, but it kind of melts with time. So now let's jump from 93, when I finished the painting and when I wrote down the song, to 99, when we were in France with Gurudev, and Gurudev was standing outside the rented temple hall, and there was a couple of hundred devotees around him, and I was way, way, way in the back. And I was carrying that melting piece of paper with the Raman Manjari Astakam in my hand, and my hand was down. And the reason I was holding it is because at that time I was planning to type it into my computer so it wouldn't be lost. So Gurudev's like 20 feet away from me, and there's 200 people in between me and him. And he called out to me, and he said, "What is in your hand?" So of course I didn't answer, because I knew he knew. And even to this day, because, you know, Maharaj is, he was the co-coordinator of Navadvip Parikrama with Sripad Bhaktivedanta Tirth Maharaj. And he, Tirth Maharaj was in charge of Bengal village preaching and collecting grains. But after his departure, Sripad Madhava Maharaj took that over, and also it became the main responsible person for the Navadvip Parikrama, and also always with a big responsibility in the Vrindavan Kartik Parikrama as well. So when I would ask him a question, now by WhatsApp, if he didn't answer me right away that day, not only did I ask him questions for myself, but also for like for the book that I'm most recently working on, which is Vilapakus Manjali. And also, before that, I was asking him questions for my memoirs, which was published last year, which is mostly about Prabhupada, but also it has 150 pages about Gurudev. So when I was asking him questions about those book publications by WhatsApp, he would usually answer right away. And sometimes I would ask him questions that I received from other people in classes. And whenever I couldn't answer them, I would tell the devotees, I'll ask my go-to, that is Sripad Madhava Maharaj. So whether it was my own question or somebody else's question, he would usually reply right away, considering the day-night day of India and America. But then sometimes he wouldn't answer for a few days. Like I remember when our team was working on the Swarup of the Jiva, and I know that he was really looking forward to the publication of that book, and he helped with it on so many occasions. And he gave me so much encouragement by saying this book will be like an atom bomb. But anyway, when he didn't answer for a few days, because then it was Kartik, or when it was Nabadweep time, Bengal village preaching, or he didn't have internet, then he would reply as soon as he could have been a few days later. And he said, I'm sorry that I'd always apologize. I'm sorry I couldn't answer early, but I was crazy busy. So only when he was crazy busy was there even a slight delay. So those are just some of the, not only for me, but for also the other translators. He would always stop and make appointments and answer all their questions. Also, I don't have to tell you about how he would collect for Janmashtami and other big festivals, and he would be doing a million multitasking things, talking to people and doing accounts and so many things, being empowered by Srila Gurudev in the next room. So Basanti is telling me my time's up, so I'm going to close here. All glories to Sripad Bhaktivedanta Narayan, him especially, and to his great disciple, Sripad Bhaktivedanta Madhava Goswami Maharaj. And if this is his Abhibhav Titi, otherwise, whenever it is, all glories to him. Gaur Premanandi, Panchakalpatarubhyashtra Kripasinduvyeva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.